r/AskReddit, what's something that society generally accepts as normal, but when you think about it, is actually very strange? Drinking milk from other animals. Eating the fermented fore of that milk, yacht. Eating that when it goes off, cheese. Eating that when it's covered in mold, blue cheese. Yeah, we eat moldy, gone off, fermented cow udder excretion. It's really strange when you think about it. Kissing, like sharing tooth grime and slobber with another person. Having a 200-gram rectangle in your pocket that can access every bit of knowledge from the entirety of human history. Sending off people to fight wars for oil. Banks run the show, not governments. Advertising that manipulates people into choices that eventually destroys everything we hold dear. The demonization of sexuality. Funerals that include viewing of the dead, especially those who were very ill, etc. Lordy, she'd lost so much weight, he just don't look all that natural to me. Look how good she looks, and I swear I heard the accident tore her all up. Some funerals that do not include the viewing. They say it's grief that makes people act strange. I'd lay odds that it's more likely to be greed. Sexy schoolgirl fancy dress outfits. Really weird. Imagine if circumcision never existed, and was first proposed today. How many men would be signing up? How many parents would be doing it to their newborn sons? They'd think it was crazy. Literally everything about humanity is weird when you overthink it. Parent-sitting children to impose obedience. Putting genitals in your mouth. Touching a pregnant woman's belly. I decorate a tree that is slowly going to die over the course of a month. On the day before I throw it out, I put presents underneath it. As soon as the present opening event is over, I despise the tree and only wish it gone. I repeat this event every year. The 40+ hour work week. Shitty customer service at government-run facilities. It's like we all have to go to the DMV or the post office, so we've just accepted it's going to suck, but we are still the customer. Can you imagine if the next restaurant you went to treated you like the DMV does? Believing in sky fairies. Enough that some people revolve their whole life around that belief. Women being paid less than men for the same job. Up until now I was alone, but buffets like Golden Corral. The amount of bacteria and germs exchanged in these places has always appalled me. But I think a few more people care now. Showers there like our own personal little rainfalls we can turn on whenever we deem necessary, and there are miles and miles of piping to run every single shower. It just weirds me out. The fact that a lot of people wear ties. It's just a piece of cloth tied around your neck. People wearing clothes that show their underwear. I'd say drinking alcohol. Consuming a substance that lowers inhibitions and has such potential for damage and addiction seems to go against our self-preservation instincts. Sleep. Oh man, I have done so many things that I need to stop doing things, stay still and let my brain turn off all non-essential parts until I feel like doing things again. Politics. School. Marriage. Pretty much anything social that is considered normal. It's not really normal. Beach attire. Everyone at the beach is essentially hanging out in their underwear. Some wearing less publicly than what they'd normally wear, hidden away under clothes for the sake of decency. As long as there's sand and water, it's totally cool to walk around in brightly colored undies. That our most comfortable clothing is not socially acceptable to wear out on a daily basis. Literally the only thing that is keeping us as a group from pajama level comfort at work and school daily is groupthink that it signals laziness and lack of self-respect. If you heard of an alien species and they used a device to portray a simulation of them killing each other for their entertainment, you would think they are crazy. Yet, we play shooter video games all the time for fun. How many people would make a religion if today 13-year girl gave birth to Messiah, claiming that its father is the God? How many people would actually be okay with that? People would of course assume that the whole "this is God's children" thing is a result of trauma, fear of informing the public about the man behind this, some kind of Stockholm syndrome or mental illness, etc. Edit, a typo. Seeing men's nipples is fine. Seeing women's nipples is shocking. At least in the US, eating pigs is normal. Eating dogs is horrible. Even though pigs are more intelligent than dogs. Most nursery rhymes are really messed up. If you take them literally. Like when a bunch of kids did surgery on a sleeping man and filled his stomach with stones and drowned him. How alcohol is globally accepted. If you change alcohol for liquid drug it becomes kinda weird. Examples. At the restaurant, the waiter asked us what kind of liquid drug we would like before our meal. At 16 my dad offered me my first liquid drug. When you receive guests, it's courtesy to offer them some liquid drug. Christian communion. If eating your Lord's body and drinking his blood was done in the woods, it would be witchcraft. When parents and grandparents meet a long-term significant other and start saying "give me grandchildren," it's basically saying "have lots of s with my child." Just weird to me. Embalming. I hear it's big in America. In fact the entire American funeral system, from the POV of a European. They pump a dead body filled with chemicals, and take out all the organs and fill it up with some material so it looks plump. I think that's how it works, at least. It makes no sense. The Egyptians did it because they believed that the soul needed to recognize the body to power onto the afterlife, which is also why they left the heart in the body, as they believed it was the soul. But they also build huge golden pyramids to their dead. We just make holes in the ground. Unless you're Lenin or want to have a mausoleum made in your honor, there's no reason to embalm yourself or your family. You spend way too much money on what you're going to bury them in the ground. They're supposed to decompose, leaving behind bones. Embalming someone only to bury them 6 foot under is like buying a Lamborghini and then driving it into a sinkhole on purpose. Now I heard embalming doesn't completely stop decomposition, but slows it down. Sure, alright, I guess it depends on how hard you go. I'm not well versed in dead people. But why don't you just bury the person like the next day? Give some time for family to come, but don't stick grandma around the house like she's still alive. Also, not putting pictures of the people on the grave. On one hand, it is very creepy to have the faces of dead people looking at you, especially when it's other people. But on the other, it's kind of cool to see how your ancestors looked like in 1654. But graveyards do freak me out, man. Especially in shows and movies where there's no clear barrier where the grave is. So you have a dude talking to his mom or something, and I'm just sitting there like, is he standing on her grave? What the H? To sum it up, the American funeral system. The aesthetic pleasure we get from looking at large bodies of water and huge lumps of rock and dirt. Drinking milk from another animal, as a child or even adult. Honestly, when you think about how most foods must have been discovered, it's remarkable how we were able to eat anything. Take olives for example. Raw, they're extremely bitter and almost completely inedible, yet someone was like, you know what this needs? To be soaked in brine for days first. I mean, how many things did that guy put in brine first before he landed on olives? Or bread? It was discovered in Egypt in 8000 BC because they were brewing beer. The yeast from the beer was left out and in the heat rose and created sourdough. But for that to happen, we're talking leaving this paste out for days, and someone saying, yeah, I'll eat that. Marriage. At least of the traditional monogamous, solely exclusive sort. I love you. I think you love me too. So please, would you agree to only love me, and only have us with me? I mean, literally until we die? I know emotions aren't fixed and we can't know the future, but I'd like you to promise you'll love me forever. I'll promise the same. Yes, even if our circumstances change, better, poorer, sickness, health. And yeah, even if I become lazy or stupid or disrespectful, to a point. I know this may seem like an insane level of commitment to our unknowable future selves, and that the whole idea is contrary to many things we say about love, that we don't have to prove it to other people, that it shouldn't involve the state or the law, that if you love something set it free, but see. Right now I don't want to run the risk you'll meet someone you prefer. Or at least if you do, and you leave me, then I want an excuse to feel really, really self-righteous and angry about it, because it'll mean you broke your promise. Yes, I know about half of such long-term, no take-backsy arrangements end in divorce, most often bitterly, and at least a fair proportion of the others must be loveless shams. Therefore there's an extremely high probability that we'll both regret this forever and look back on this proposal as one of the worst mistakes of both our lives. But right now and at least for the next 6 months or so I'm locked in a chemical infatuation with you. Or, we've basically been doing this for a few years now and probably neither of us can immediately find anyone else, and I at least have already become emotionally or habitually dependent on you already. Therefore let's make a legally binding agreement that we both know our unknowable future emotional states forever. Will you marry me? Being 18 and carrying a weapon to go to war and potentially kill another human being but not being able to get tipsy in your home country. Honey. It's regurgitated nectar. From an insect. I knew this guy in the military who was Nigerian. We're at this training exercise in the middle of nowhere. The facilities are like an open picnic spot, a male barracks, a female barracks and showers in the middle. But it's all outside and separated. We're having a meeting in the guys' barracks, because for some reason it's okay for the females to come in there and not vice versa because army. Dude walks in from the showers with a towel in his hand and nothing but boxers on. And we all freak out like, dude, you can't just walk in here in your underwear in front of all these females. And he looks at us confused, but it's just like shorts. But, I mean, yeah, but. Call me daddy being a completely acceptable turn on. Clapping, you're effectively hitting your hand over and over to congratulate someone, yet if I hit any other part of my body it's weird. Keeping a cow pregnant for their whole life to extract their milk and offspring. Milking a cow? Dirty bastards back in the day. Sending money using paper checks. I know before the internet it may have been practical, but businesses expect me to just send a physical piece of paper that has my full bank account, routing number, along with my full name and address all in unencrypted plain text through the mail. There is literally no security on checks. It's insane, and I hope the acceptability of using them wanes as new generations grow up. When parents make their kids kiss people. Why do most white Americans wear their outside shoes in their house? That's nasty. We're grossed out by breast milk but won't think about drinking cow or goat milk. Human milk is the best milk for humans, at least when in infancy. Hating on seeing a mother breastfeed her baby. Thinking that when you die you'll magically go to some black void called nothingness. Oddly enough, any other magical places you might go to are just absurd fairy tales according to Reddit. Spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on a wedding dress that will only be worn once, while the groom rents a tuxedo and returns it after the wedding. Why the difference? Open casket funerals. Pretty much you, your family, and your friends go to a centralized location to sit in chairs, look at a box that contains the body of your loved one. I get that it might help people to say goodbye one last time, and help with their grief, but it's still really weird when you think about it. You don't really know how to act. Are you supposed to cry, reconnect with relatives you barely see? Are you supposed to just remain quiet and just stare at your dead loved one? Personally, I don't want to have a funeral. I could care less what happens to my body. Dig a hole, and throw my body into the ground for all I care. I don't want people to remember me as a cold, stiff, dead corpse. Instead, I want to have a living funeral. I want to be there to joke around with everyone, and reminisce on the good, old days. I want people to remember me laughing, and with a smile on my face. Buying pets. I'm not a vegan, but I do believe animals should be treated well. It's silly to me that humans buy animals to be pets. In fact, it makes less sense to me than people buying animals, cows, chickens and so on, to grow up for food. If I were to ever get a large pet, it'd be from a shelter or rescue or whatever they are called. These are living creatures and it's odd to me that there are prices on them.